Dianne Donovan here for KMFA Radio. I am so delighted to be sitting across from the eminent James Dick, great pianist, fine pianist, and founder and artistic director of the Round Top Festival Insitute, and the music festival is going on right now. It's in its 53rd year. You founded this in 1971.
Can you imagine?
I can't.
I can't. I still can't.
I want to
because time goes by so fast. But let me just say, Diane, you have been so wonderful over the years because I've come in a lot, and we've always been so kind to introduce your public to us at Festival Hill. It's been a great help.
It's an amazing festival that runs over, 6 or 7 weekends every summer. And
The festival is 6 weeks,
Yeah.
but then we have wonderful events throughout the year,
Right.
Which we call the August to April. So we kind of fill up the rest of the year with those.
Well, you were already, as I say, you're an eminent pianist. You're already winning awards, Tchaikovsky Award for the Tchaikovsky Piano Competition.
Well, I was among the winners.
Yes, and several other competitions. And then you came from Kansas to Austin, Texas. And then
We made a good decision.
You did? Okay. You decided to stay in Texas, but why, you could have just focused on your piano career. What made you want to start the Institute in the first place, et cetera?
Well, I've always loved to teach. And I wanted to find a place that, in the summers at least, that would give me an opportunity to do what I also love. And my career at that time was, throughout the year, was very busy and touring. So the summers were the best time to devote to that.
And it's the best time for the students as well. You didn't have the space you have now, which is now 210 acres, and beautiful buildings in which to perform and such.
Which we built from scratch, many of them. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. So I wanted to ask you, how many students did you have that first year?
Actually, they were all pianists.
That's right.
And there were 14 at that point, yeah.
And you were the teacher.
I was, yes.
And now you bring in teachers from leaders on their instruments from all over.
In every orchestral instrument, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So the students who come here, they don't only have a focus on their instruments, but there are other kinds of workshops as well. And I'm thinking of interpretations for music, lessons for life with Benjamin Zander.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting.
Yes,
He's the
and
founder
Benjamin's
of...
here this week. He's doing a wonderful performance of great music of Ben Britten and Charles Ives and Brahms, which is a great combination. And you're going to meet in a few minutes our new program director,
Yes.
who has had a great deal to do with the programming, and they have been sensational this whole summer.
Oh, how tremendous. Another aspect I like, performance and psychology and body mapping with Jason Schaefer and Kristen Wolf Jensen.
Yes?
When did you start?
Something called sound painting. Have you ever heard of sound
I
painting?
have heard of sound painting.
Well, I think we're the only festival in America that has anything to do with that. It's the most incredible. The gestures that the conductor or the person in charge makes then indicates to those musicians playing. It gives them some indication of what to do. But it's still improvisation.
Wow.
And it's unbelievably wonderful.
Okay, I might have been thinking of a different kind of sound painting.
This was founded by a man named Walter Thompson, who is from the United States, but he now lives in Finland. And we presented him here at Round Top 2 years ago, I believe it was. And one of the young artists studying at that point is now teaching it at Oberlin. Wow. So it's catching on, and with great reason. It's invaluable.
Well, what has changed over the years, in the last 53 years? Number one being you built that beautiful building and you have 210 acres.
Well, let me just correct you now. We don't have quite 210 now. We just sold some land.
You did? Oh, okay.
But I just want to be factually correct here.
Okay, fair enough.
We have 160, so.
Give or take.
Well, my idea was that we wanted to create a green belt that would last and also that would inspire people too. And that was why we planted 24,000 trees as well, because it was really all sort of cow pasture and fields. So we've got a really verdant countryside now. So when people come there, they can picnic. They've got wonderful trees for shade and coolness.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Which is an aspect of Texas we have to think about.
More and more, it seems, yes.
I think what's important, Diane, also is that here we have a great festival, but we also have a venue that is very visual, too. And I think that helps us with the audiences, there's no question. So and it's a very beautiful countryside too.
Yeah,
We want people to come and attend
yes, and
and to come back.
they do.
Yes.
Do you have, is there something that stays with you from these past 50 years? I'm going to ask you, every year I ask you if you can, tell us a story, something that from years past and something that meant so much to you. It might have been a particular performance that you gave or a different conductor, because you bring in conductors from all over.
Yeah.
Very
It's like trying to say, what is your favorite piece of music? Which is impossible to do. No, there's so many. It would take us all afternoon to talk about them all. I think probably the one that resonates most with me is when we first start the opening concert of every year. When the first sound from the orchestra that year happens with the conductor with his downbeat at the first rehearsal, which is usually on a Monday evening. It's the most wonderful sound. We know it's going to change, which it must.
Yes.
But it's a great thrill to have all these disparate young musicians from all over the world coming together. And within hours of arriving to Festival Hill, they bring out their instruments and they sit down and play that first sound. I mean, that's got to be memorable every year.
And so once again, you have young musicians from all over the world.
Yes, yes.
Several continents.
Yes,
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we have alumni on 6 continents. Yeah. Teaching, performing, yeah.
Well, I have a favorite story that you
Well,
have
tell
told me over the years, that you have told me.
Oh, right.
And it's about seeing you're touring. You're on tour in Europe playing piano, and you're with an orchestra, and you look over and you see.
Oh,
Please.
it happens all the time.
Okay. What happens all the time?
That you meet people who have been studying at Round Top, and they may be in Singapore, which they were.
And you're playing, and you look. Oh, I recognize that. And they. That's
It's been in a number of countries where I've been. That's thrilling to have that happen. To know that it really does exist, that these young musicians do go out and we hope bring a little bit of what they found at Round Top with them. Certainly, I think the experience of being there it's almost like a family. We keep it small. I think I told you about the one time I was playing in New York, and there was an interview in the Times in which we talked about the festival. And then they had a headline saying, at last, something small in Texas. So I love that.
That's a great headline. Well, it's not really that small anymore, in its 53rd year. In fact, there's a beautiful book that came out a couple of years ago. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, we spent almost 2 years on a book that was our 50th anniversary.
Yep.
We had to stop finally because you're talking about stories and events. There was just so many things that came up, and we finally had to stop when we got to 374 pages. We thought that was about enough.
Yeah, I've certainly seen it, but it's a tremendous book, and it was written by.
We were very happy that Carl Cunningham, who was the critic on the Houston Post for 26 years, agreed to write the book. And he had attended one of our first concerts, too. That's unheard of, I think.
Yeah, that is amazing. That's amazing, and it is a beautiful book. What would you say is the most gratifying, and this is going to be difficult as well, what is the most gratifying thing about having started this festival?
I think the best thing I think about is that it's still here, and it's growing, and that it's still producing wonderful results, and the quality gets better. It's hard to say better every year, but I must say that it does somehow.
Yeah.
The applicants are wonderful, and we're very, very pleased that the word is getting around. You know, one thing we ask at the end of each session for the young artists studying to say, how did they hear about our place? And now, you know, with all the media, I thought social media, no. Word of mouth. That's why radio, that's why video still is so important to the world and to all of us personally.
Just congratulations on the amazing work you've done all these years, and the musicians that the festival and you yourself have influenced over 50 plus years. That's pretty amazing.
Well,
Quite a
we
legacy.
still have more to do.
Yes, indeed.
We're building a new building called the Educational Ensemble Center, which I hope people will get interested to help us.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But it's a valuable facility that we've needed for a long time. So it's high time we do it,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Yes, I do.
As we begin our next 50 years.
Hooray. Well, James Dick, I want to thank you for being with us today on Classical
It's
Austin.
always a pleasure.
What a great
Great
pleasure.
pleasure.
Yeah,
And we're thrilled for KMFA to be here.
thank you.
It's been a valuable contributor to music for all of this area of Texas. And then think of the people who also hear you, that also leave, and remember about KMFA too.
And listen online, wherever they are in the world. They can listen to us
We've
online.
had faculty driving in Ohio, in which they told me, well, a great cellist named Martin Lovett, he and his wife were driving near Columbus, and they tuned in one day, and here they were.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's fascinating. That's wonderful.
It's a true story.
Well, we've been around about the same amount of time, KMFA a little bit longer, but it took many years to develop this facility, and you're still building, you're still looking ahead, and for more great things for the students. And I did want to say, these students might be about 80, you said you keep it small. They don't pay the tuition for
They're all on full scholarship, which we raise, and we've been so adamant and demanding that we keep that idea going. Some of us have been so benefited by scholarships ourselves that it's very meaningful and important. And also, we have to admit that the cost of going to school today anywhere is incredible. So if they're going to have extra professional help in the summer, they're going to need extra financial help too. And we provide that.
Absolutely, Maestro James Dick. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Dianne,
much
very, very
for your
much.
time and for what you've given to our community and beyond. And now it's my pleasure to welcome for the first time on Classical Austin and KMFA, Iverson Eliopoulos. He is the new program director at Round Top Festival Insitute, which he wears proudly on his shirt. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And I have one of these in every color.
Oh, wonderful. That's a great color.
Yeah.
How long have you been the new program director?
About 1 year.
Okay.
But it's not my first time at Festival Hill. I was a student here back in 2019. I played the cello.
Yeah.
And then I came back as one of the interns 1 year to manage the orchestra and kind of run the logistics of that. And I had such a good experience. And when James reached out to me to come back full time, I jumped at the opportunity because what a special place.
Well, what does a program director do in this case? Especially, you'd certainly be working with James Dick. He's your
I think that's the most fun part is the programming and deciding what music we're going to play and what conductors we're going to bring in and what teachers. And I look to James Dick for inspiration there. I mean, he's been through so many festivals at this point. He knows what works and he knows what incredible musicians are out there. And so that's the most fun part is sitting down with him, our morning coffee, and we talk about, what are we going to do? Who are we going to invite? What are we going to play? And that's the best part of the job, I think. And then during the year, I organize the auditions and make sure that we get the orchestra accepted and enrolled and then get them here to Austin and then out to Round Top. And then during the festival, I run the festival.
So even though you're no longer an intern, it sounds like you're still dealing with a lot of the logistics.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thankfully, I have two wonderful interns who help me with that. But there's a lot to do at a festival like this. You wouldn't think with, just one orchestra, but they're busy every day, all day.
Well, before we talk more about what's still to come in the festival, when you first arrived, I think you said 2019, as a cellist, what did you personally get out of the festival as a musician?
Well, I found the festival because of the incredibly challenging repertoire that we play, and that's something I was looking for in a summer festival. And I also wanted to be somewhere that was not in a city. I come from Boston, Massachusetts. I live in the city all year round, and I wanted to be out in nature. And I wanted to be in a place that would challenge me, but expose me to music I hadn't played before, with teachers that I never would get the chance to study with. And also, I have to say, I wanted an experience that I, didn't have to pay for as well. And that's huge it was huge for me and huge for our students who come. I think that's what really drew me in. And that's the experience I got out of it was a real simulation of a professional orchestra lifestyle, essentially. And that's why I fell in love with it.
That's tremendous that you did that. But could you tell us about the rest of the festival?
This Saturday, we have a wonderful program coming up with my colleague and mentor and friend, Benjamin Zander, coming to conduct. I grew up working with him in Boston, and it was a pleasure to invite him here for his second time at Round Top.
Wow.
His first being in 2019 when I was a student here. So comes full circle. It's wonderful. And we came up with a program, I think, that highlights his career in a way, but also exposes these students to music they haven't played before. And I'm very excited about the Britten 4C interludes and the Ives 3 Places in New England. And Benjamin Zander studied composition with Britten when he was 12 years old along the shores of England. And so we have these 4 beautiful pictures of the sea from his home, and then these 3 kind of beautiful, evocative images from my home. And it's a nice little connection there, a little Easter egg that I put into the program. And then we get to do the Brahms Symphony, which received its American premiere in Boston, and I think is a great work for these students to learn because they'll have to play it a lot in their lives. But I want them to learn it with passion and with love, and I don't want it to be a piece that they just learn the notes and go through the rest of their life without thinking of what was behind it when it was written.
Well, how thrilling. And Benjamin Zander, of course, founded the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra and has done many recordings. He, too, did he not start out as a cellist?
He did start as a cellist.
And a composer.
Yes,
And then,
exactly.
okay.
And I played in his youth orchestra for 6 years. Yeah.
And that was relatively new compared to...
Correct. That orchestra was founded in 2012.
Yeah,
And
good timing.
Yeah, I know, right? And I joined in 2016, and then that was the first orchestra I ever played in, and that kind of gave me the training to come to a place like this, where I could take part in a super fast, high-intensity program like Festival Hill.
Fabulous. Well, and then there are master classes all through this coming week. Master classes for violin, bassoon, a lot of things. And then you have your final concerts of the season. Could you tell us about the Saturday concert?
Sure, yes. So we always have 3 concerts on Saturdays. We have a 1:30 program, a 3:30, and a 7:30. And on the 1:30, on the last week, we end with our wonderful percussionists getting, everything that they can find to hit with a stick. They'll find it, and they play the most wonderful, evocative, beautiful works that I don't even know where they find these pieces, but they're amazing. So that's a really fun program that everyone always loves. And then at 3:30, we have a program of Brahms, but also Schumann and the German composer Jörg Widmann, who wrote a piece based on German fairy tales. And so that same trio will segue into Schumann's fairy tales. And then we have the Brahms sextet with all of our faculty, which I think is a wonderful thing we do, is we have faculty chamber music performances that sometimes the students will fill in those empty spots and play with the faculty. And that's the first time that they're getting to play really challenging, really emotional repertoire with professional musicians. They're getting to learn how they work. I mean, I think that's one of the most life-changing experiences for them, even aside from the orchestra, is getting to see the faculty, work with the faculty in such an intimate way. Right. And then the final concert with Dianne Lazarova, who was a violin student here from 2005 to 2008, and 4 years, that's a lot. She came back several years, which is great. And she's now made quite a name for herself. And you wouldn't believe how many people have come up to me in the past few months and said, "Oh, I see you have Dianne coming. I worked with her at here or there, and she's incredible." So we're really excited for her to come, and she's doing a great program of Samuel Coleridge Taylor, the Emperor Concerto with James Dick, which will be a real treat. And then ending with Dvorak's New World Symphony, which I think the kids can finally almost relax from all the insane repertoire that we put on their shoulders. Now they can really just have fun and sing and play their hearts out.
Yes, I got to say, the repertoire is just vast, and I know we're in like the final week, so we didn't get to hear all about it from the start, but it really, like, very contemporary music and some of the old chestnuts and great works of the greats like Beethoven and Brahms, etc.
Yeah, I think it's important to expose them to everything that they're going to be exposed to in the professional world, but also music that is good, music that sounds good and feels good to play, and music that allows them to express themselves. I think that's the main thing, is I don't want them to go already jaded into the professional world, you know? I want them to be in a place that inspires, with people that inspire, and music that makes them feel something. And we're going to continue doing that, and we have more interesting things coming down the road in future years.
So you'll also be programming the rest of the year because there are concerts throughout the year. Are you already working on 2025?
We are, yes.
course.
We have a few conductors and few pieces already set for that, and we'll announce that in a few months. And in the same way that I was inspired to come because of the repertoire,
Yeah.
I am keeping that in mind when I'm programming. I'm thinking, what young student is going to see this on our website and say, this is a festival I can't miss, you know? So we're putting some fun stuff together.
That's just amazing. Well, all good wishes
Thank you.
in your new post. It sounds like a lot of responsibility and a lot of fun,
A lot of
and,
fun, yeah.
and excitement. Thank you, Iverson Eliopoulos. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here for the first time.